Well, hello and good morning. Thank you for joining us for day 2 of the Future of Brands. We had a brilliant day yesterday, actually. Really busy, really good fun. I don't know how many of you were just watching Major Chris Hunter, but that was an explosive session, wasn't it? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Anyway, from bombs to beans. I'll stop. But we will be spilling the beans on Heinz's big appetite for TikTok this morning. An account which went from 0 to 40,000 followers in just a few months. And it was when I was looking for sessions to put on at the Future of Brands. If you know MediaTel, we're really focused on media strategy. And something we've seen is that, and when we did our Future of TV Advertising conference, we found that people were talking about TV like it's TV. People are seeing TikTok as a channel to reach consumers in a completely new way, and so we really wanted to focus on TikTok a little bit at the conference. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking too much and dive in. And Alex, can you just describe why TikTok and how does it fit into the wider strategy you have for Heinz Beanz?
Absolutely. So first of all, everybody, I'm Alex. I look after Media and Digital at Kraft Heinz. So to answer your question, I think that there's two reasons really. The first one is as a sort of a media person interested in where attention is. And I think TikTok is quite unique in some ways and interesting that it's capturing people's attention in digital space in quite an immersive way. You know, it's a sound-on, immersive AV platform. So immediately to me, as a marketeer, that's quite interesting. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that we talk a lot at Kraft Heinz about creativity at the speed of culture. So communicating to our customers in a truly, truly relevant way through the lens of what's going on in the cultural space at the moment. And we found TikTok is a really, really good channel to do that. We've seen our best success, not in communicating top down, but more in building campaigns from the bottom up, really. So looking at what's happening on the platform, what's happening in the cultural space, and building up our communications from that base, really. So yeah, it's a good platform for us.
And Sarah, you lead VaynerMedia. So why when you were working with Alex did you decide TikTok was the right place to move into?
Yes, great question. Excuse me. Kind of everything that Alex said, really. For us, it's less about any, subjective view we have towards the platform. It's much more about where consumer attention is and where we can find audiences. Because where their attention is means you can build relevance. And relevance is the most important thing that brands need to drive in order to grow and retain their audiences. And I think for Kraft Heinz, there's also, which we'll probably go on to talk about, a kind of a really big cultural connection in terms of the spirit of a brand and the spirit of an organization and the ability to embrace a brand like TikTok because it works in a really, really different way. And I think also for a brand like Heinz, which is so universal, it's so democratic. I love the stats, and I'll probably misquote them dreadfully, but like 98% of households in the UK have Heinz products in their cupboard, and many of them have 10 Heinz products kind of in their cupboard or their fridge. So thinking about Kraft Heinz, obviously in the full media mix, it's really, really important to help drive relevance for new generations and new audiences as well. And TikTok obviously is the place that can do that and really, again, sort of works incredibly well with the playfulness of Kraft Heinz as an organisation and Heinz as a brand.
And can you just describe a little bit about how TikTok is different to the other channels you're using, particularly other social channels, and what audience you can expect to reach?
Oh, it is so totally different. I mean, on so many different levels. And I think from an audience perspective, obviously, TikTok's grown incredibly quickly. We've got sort of 1 billion active users worldwide now. Obviously, the UK is a very key market for TikTok as well, with very high usage rates. What was quite interesting at the beginning is audiences could be found on TikTok that weren't on other social platforms as well. So you're not going to find the same person on TikTok as you would on Facebook, obviously. I know we all know that. But then I think there's something about the combination of how people act when they're on TikTok as well. And, you know, we've seen obviously higher levels of engagement, and we see, you know, actually a propensity to purchase as well. So there's an amazing stat, 46% of people have gone on to buy a product or a brand, a food product or brand that they've discovered on TikTok as well. So it's an incredible platform and channel for us and for Heinz to take new products to market, because Heinz is just an innovation machine, kind of pasta sauces, you know, sort of, you know, all sorts of, you know, new products coming out the whole time as well. And it gives the ability to just capture that audience as well, and also use it really strategically as well. People don't think that you can use organic platforms in a strategic way, thinking about your audiences, thinking about your cohorts, but you can. You just can't measure it in the same way that you can with paid, but you can think about it in terms of your objectives, who you want to reach, the content you make, and how that works.
I think what we've seen as well is that our audience are much more willing to engage with us in TikTok as a platform. The type of engagement we get, the type of comments, type of interactions we get are surprisingly rich, actually. For being a brand in the social space. And
I think one other point as well is obviously it's a platform that's founded and, you know, created by creators. So it's very, very individual. It's very, very authentic. It's quite interesting when you think about it from a marketing perspective, how kind of, you know, lo-fi the content actually has to be. It's not just is, it has to be in order to win on that platform as well. So I think there's just, an individuality and an authenticity and kind of a relatability that people have with TikTok compared to, say, a much glossier, manicured world of Instagram or other platforms.
And I know you've already used the word relevant. Alex, obviously TikTok is all about being relevant, actually, and, you know, always seeing new trends come up. I'm trying desperately not to use the word agile, like we've used so much in the pandemic, but how important is speed on TikTok and, you know, using that lo-fi content, being authentic?
Well, I mean, to succeed in the space, you've got to be jumping on what that space is focusing on at the moment. And we've set ourselves up in my team at Kraft Heinz, but also the Vayner team, to really try and deliver against that. The way we tend to structure our days is that first thing in the morning, the teams are on Slack, talking about what's happening, what's trendy, and crucially what the way is for Kraft Heinz to authentically get involved in that trend. If we decide there's a way in, the Vayner guys will think of some concepts. If those concepts work for us, we go ahead and create it. And that length of time between seeing the trend and producing the creative, and that creative thing out there, is usually, you know, 5 or 6 hours. And I think having your team set up in such a way to be able to deliver against what's going on culturally in that space, for us, has been critical in, you know, finding success, really.
Yeah, it's right. So if anybody's had the misfortune of seeing my LinkedIn, I found it really interesting recently being able to. I did one yesterday morning when I was here, where just putting a video together can be actually so easy. And you can edit it on your phone. You can put music to it, which has already had the, you know, you're allowed to do it. It's not got a copyright against it. It's so easy to actually start making video content. And when you say, you know, there's a 5-6 hour turnaround, what are the risks when it comes to working for a huge organisation in that speed of turnaround? Because surely, you know, your employees, your staff can't be. Maybe you've got meetings for the whole day. They can't ask for your feedback, or they have to just put it out. So what are those risks?
I think that there's a couple of things really that we've seen. So the first one is, I mean, and I think crucially for us, is ultimately we're a brand, right? We're there to advertise and fundamentally sell sauces and sell beans. So I think there is a risk that you end up just jumping on culture and jumping on trends for the sake of it. So we talk a lot about operating that intersection between what's culturally relevant, but also what we as a brand want to talk about and what's relevant for us at the same time. We describe it as kind of a Venn diagram, right? So brand and culture, we try and operate at that sort of golden intersection between them. But I think being clear that it has to work for the brand is really important. But in terms of operationally turning things around so quickly, I think there's a necessity there that we get it right first time. There's not enough time to get it wrong and do it over, because if you do, if the creative isn't quite right and we can't put it out, quite often that ship has sailed. Quite often that trend has moved on. So we really, I think, spent a lot of time up front making sure we're all clear on the brand parameters, on the legal parameters, to make sure that we do get it right first time and can jump on that trend and see some great results for the brand.
Is there anything you've been particularly surprised about by the results you're seeing on TikTok?
I think there is. So, I mean, Sarah touched on it earlier, and the type of creative that works on TikTok is surprisingly very, very different to what works on other channels. And as a marketeer, someone who's come up through marketing, that can often make you a little bit uncomfortable. If you lay out on a table, you know, your TV creative, your out-of-home creative, even your creative for other social channels, and put TikTok next to it, TikTok can appear by comparison to have quite, you know, a low production value. But you kind of need it to be that way in order for it to work. So I think that was the first learning. I think also linked to that, being brave is often where you see that magic, pushing yourself to do things that you might not feel comfortable doing on other channels is really important to see that success. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is the nature of TikTok is that, I mean, it's a new space, right? And we're all testing and learning to see what does work. What's brilliant about it is you get real-time feedback in terms of what's performed, but crucially what hasn't performed. And you get that feedback really quickly.
Yep.
And the difference between what's done well and what hasn't done well is usually pretty big. So you've got to be able to become quite comfortable with things not being hugely successful all the time, again, quite quickly. And that's a bit of a cultural shift for us as a business, being able to admit when something's not gone brilliantly and take the learnings from it.
Mm-hmm. And I would add that is something for the entire industry, and we've talked about this before. We've all been trained up, whether at agency side or marketeer side, to, you know, celebrate our successes and go in and take them and say, look what my campaign did, didn't it achieve this, and weren't my sales wonderful? And kind of everyone sort of just is very quiet about the things that didn't work because you don't want to draw attention to them in case your budgets get cut or the agency gets put up for pitch. And I think, you know, what's key to the success, I think, of Heinz on TikTok and the amazing job you've done internally as well is kind of shaping this mindset shift into actually we're learning from everything. You know, social is a real-time consumer insights engine. And if you think about it in that way and you see what isn't working as well as you thought it was going to work, and then you learn how to make it better. And then you do start to build up to the really big successes, and then you do start to unlock follower growth and engagement and, you know, obviously kind of connect it with all the other parts of your media mix.
I mean, if I was truly honest, I think behind every big success we've had on TikTok, there's been a good handful of things that haven't gone quite as well, and it's that combination of learnings that has led to that success. So being able to sort of take those and move forward with them is crucial, really.
It's interesting. We talk a lot about media planning being, you know, is it an art or is it a science? Is it somewhere in between? Is there a science to success on TikTok, or is it kind of shooting in the dark and seeing what happens?
Do you want me to go first?
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's definitely not shooting in the dark. Definitely not. And I think it's true of all social, but particularly of TikTok. It's easy to think you do just pick up a camera or pick up your phone and, you know, make something and post it. But in order to have that freedom, and as Alex was saying, to be able to move at the speed of culture, there has to be an enormous amount of rigor and analysis and structure around that. You have to set the parameters of what you want to be on the platform, who you really want to engage with, and what kind of content you're going to make, and obviously where the brand sort of guardrails are as well. And then, yeah, you absolutely have to be in there, and, you know, it's very much a sort of hands on keyboard or, you know, reading screens kind of approach. And we have a role at VaynerMedia which is all about just analysing kind of the comments of how people are responding and understanding them in relation to, you know, what we're trying to do for Heinz and the broader things. So, yeah, very, very, very much a science. A lot of structure and rigour, but a huge amount of art as well, because, you know, it ultimately relies on sort of the individuality and the ideas of our combined team and how we bring that to life as well. Because, yeah, TikTok is all about individuality and personality.
Yeah. And so what would you say has been, give us an example of your favourite campaign or the favourite video you've seen on TikTok?
If I just build on Sarah's point and answer that question as well. So I've been surprised actually by how data-led we found our approach to TikTok and how data's informed our success, both quantitatively in terms of looking at the numbers, the engagements, the impressions and so on, but also qualitatively. We spend a lot of time, as Sarah says, in the comments looking at how our consumers are interacting with and perceiving us. And almost all of our big successes have been informed, to be honest, by those comments. So if I give an example of a campaign that's come out of that, we do, as a food brand, a lot of food content on TikTok, right? And we quickly found that our consumers all enjoyed our products in their own unique way, right? Everyone's got their own way of doing beans on toast. Yeah. And we lent into that, and we produced a whole content series about that. And that started from comments, which we were getting in our original food posts, and quickly spiraled into something that was much bigger. Putting media budget behind it clearly to make sure it's reaching enough people to make a difference. Yeah. But the fact it was based on that insight just meant it resonated at a much stronger level with our community, but also in such a way it was delivering what we want to deliver as a brand at the same time.
Oh, brilliant. And for the brands in the audience today, and the agencies too, what would be your biggest tip for getting started in TikTok, making that step?
Shall I take this one?
You take that one, yes.
So I'd say be brave. I think TikTok is a platform that allows you to be brave, and pushing yourself outside of the comfort zone, within reason, obviously, is where we've seen the best successes. So that would be my piece of advice.
And I'd just build on that. Do it quickly and do it now, because there's a disproportionate amount of value that you can extract right now on the organic side. I mean, as Alex said, we've actually gone to 50,000 followers since we first started talking about this. So, it's one of the platforms where you can have, 0 followers and still go viral, because the algorithm works in that way. So, do it quickly before it turns into, obviously, a platform that requires paid media to get you your reach and get you your engagement. And if you do the pre-planning and you do the setup and you understand the platform and spend time on it yourself, then there's actually very little risk attached to it. And it's a lot of fun.
It is.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much to Sarah and Alex for joining us. Oh yeah, sorry, audience questions, of course, yeah.
So I love the phrase creativity at the speed of culture. That was great, and you talked about how quickly it is to get videos up there and so on. Question to Alex is, given in the news recently, there's been stuff about fake videos about Ukraine on TikTok and so on. All the benefits that come with it being fast and quick and so on. There's also
risks
attached to that as well. So internally, how do you navigate brand safety?
So it's tricky, right, on all social spaces, and I think all brands are kind of, as a starting point, relying on the social platforms taking upon themselves to have good, rigorous community guidelines, which they do enforce. So we keep our eye firstly on all those community guidelines and keep an eye on the accountability which the social platforms put on themselves. So that's the starting point. I think we also try to add in our additional, layers of risk prevention as well through third-party verifiers like Double Verify, for example, who's a partner we work with wherever we can and whenever their media spend permits.
One very, very quick one.
I'm interested in how much value you put on following TikTok or other brands that don't even have a presence. Influencers. How much value do you put? Is it just a metric following? Go viral without having it?
Well, it makes a good headline for a talk, right? From 4 to 40,000. But the main value I see in it as a platform, to be honest, is the community engagement more so than anything else. So followers, as Sarah said, is kind of not a necessity, but it's that engagement which we look at, I think, most importantly, is to judge our success on the platform.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much to Sarah and Alex.
Thank you.